Have you ever noticed that even though we, as a species, as mankind, we never been so connected as we are today, but we have never felt so isolated from each other? I don't know how it came to be. Like it just happened so fast, right? I'm sure all of you can relate to something like this. We have all these social media accounts, all of these platforms, all these ways to meet people supposedly, but how about the real life people? How about the people that really matter to us? How about our families, our friends, our closest people to us? They kind of stayed in the background. At least they did for me. And so I decided to implement in my life 5 things that brought me closer to my family, to the ones I care, and also, and very importantly, to myself. So the first thing I want to talk about is meditation. I know what you're thinking. A lot of people are talking about this nowadays, and it has become quite a popular trend, so to say, quite a popular word that's been going on the internet. But I'm actually trying to tell you guys that it actually helped me a lot. How did it help me? Well, sometimes I just found myself in this state of mind where a lot of my thoughts were overwhelming me, and I noticed that in some occasions I couldn't perform some simple task or some simple decision because I was so overloaded with all these thoughts and emotions and questions, even doubts. And so what meditation allowed me to achieve was this clearer state of mind that allows me to make better decisions and just pretty much start on a blank plate, as if I was just throwing a subject or a problem I'm dealing with on an empty sheet, an empty table, where I can work just solely on that problem. And this just leads me to my second thing on this five things list, which is the view from above, or pretty much a change of perspective. The second way I want to talk to you guys about is this view from above, this perspective. And what do I mean by this? When you're just dealing with your own thoughts and your own problems, you tend to be like immersed in that particular problem. And what you should do, instead of just looking at a problem from inside a problem, you should instead like detach yourself from that problem. Like, for example, if I'm using this pencil, I know how it is. I know its shape. I know it writes. I know it has this particular thickness. I know its size. But like, I'm diving way too deep in what pencil is, because it's just a pencil, just something that I use to write with. And so what I'm saying is this. So imagine if this pencil is your problem. Instead of being just so focused in it, just detach yourself from it, and then you got your problem, and this, and my right hand being you, or just you're conscious of it, so you can take a look at that problem from a third person perspective. And what happens when you do this, you come to realize that problem you thought is such a calamity, it's actually just a pencil. And this happens quite often. And you can also extend this way of thinking to pretty much everything in your life. Every breath you take, every bite, every time you have a meal, every time you take a step outside, every time you smell something, a cologne, a perfume, every time, like when you pet your dog or your cats, just everything you do, just do it with a more attentive perspective. Just be more mindful of what you're actually doing. How many times are we having a meal with our families, with our friends, but are we really there? Are we really having that meal with that person? sometimes, or most of the times, for example, in my case, I find myself with my thoughts just wandering pretty far from that present moment, and that actually takes me away from the present moment, and that's bad because everything you will ever have at a certain particular time is that moment, and that moment won't ever come back. And so we need to pay a closer attention to what is actually happening. Another way to actually achieve this supposed happiness that I've been rambling about for the past few minutes, another way to actually achieve it is to just achieve and conquer and accomplish your goals. And what do I mean by this? It's of no use if you actually set a goal for yourself that's completely unattainable in the small to medium term. For example, let's say you want to bench press a ridiculous amount of weight in the next 3, 4, in the next month, for example. Like there is no way on earth that you're gonna achieve that goal in 1 month. You need to spend a lot more time into it than you think, and so that goal is not a sustainable one, and it will actually end up frustrating you more than, instead of giving you happiness, making you feel fulfilled with what you're accomplishing, what you're actually trying to improve about yourself. Make sure your goals are sustainable, because once they are sustainable, you kind of get on this, you gain this momentum, and as soon as you gain momentum, it's always easier to achieve the next, and you eventually come to realize that earlier than you thought, you are at your ultimate goal, your ultimate purpose. And after that, well, that's it. That's pretty much what you got. You got to rinse and repeat. You got to make another goal, because it's what makes us human. We can't have an end goal that just freezes, and once we achieve that goal, we just stop. We stop working on ourselves. We stop working on our goals. That cannot happen. This is for the long term. This is something you gotta do for the rest of your life, and that's fine, because we're human and we are looking for new challenges and tasks to complete our lives and ourselves. Excuse the messy hair, but it's 8 a.m. It's December 31st, and it's quite chilly. But instead of staying at home and sleep, I decided to just grab my gear and just take my surfboard and go out for a spin, because I heard it's bombing. And so this goes in line with what I was saying previously about accomplishing the goals you set for yourself, and if those goals are actually, for example, hobbies, or if they involve physical activity, even better. And yeah, that's it. Let's go for a spin. Woo! And last but not least, the last thing I want to mention in order to have a more fulfilling and happy life is actually the regular practice of physical exercise. And since I was talking about bench pressing, it doesn't have to be like going to the gym. If you want to do it, just do it. If that's what you feel most comfortable with, you want to start hitting the gym, by all means, just do it. But if it involves some sort of outdoor activity, I think it's better for your overall being. At least it makes a difference for me. I personally don't like to work out in gyms. I personally prefer to do those like urban fitness. I'm saying is this sometimes in big cities there's this little jungle gyms where there's some sort of like physical apparatus where you can like bench press and also make push-ups, and it's all completely free. You just have to go to these places and just work out, and have to pay a thing. But if you want for gyms, by all means, just do it. But if it involves some like fresh air, some outdoor activity, I think it's better for you. At least it makes a difference to me. Just taking in the atmosphere, nature, the sun on your face, and as you can tell probably by now, my favorite activity of choice is actually surfing. That's what makes me most fulfilled. That makes me feel so alive and in contact with nature. And if you haven't tried it already, I really recommend you to try it, because for me it's like one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I also forgot to mention one thing. At the start of 2019 or last year, I made a promise to myself to complete every day these 2 habits every day. The first one was to read 10 pages of any book of my choosing every day, and the second one was to meditate at least 10 minutes every day. So I'm gonna put up some screenshots of an app that I use on my phone in order to track these habits. And so as you can see, I meditated around 70% of the year, or that means that about 7% of the time of 2019 I was meditating. And as for reading, about half the days of 2019 I was actually reading some book of my own choosing. And so this is great for you to make you accountable for what you set up to do for yourself, because like this you can see your monthly view, and you start to make streaks. So if you start to make a streak for like almost 1 month, you are less likely to skip on that habit for that day. For example, I remember seeing like a streak of 20 days where I had read a book, and what happened was that I would look to that score and I was like, I'm not gonna ruin the score, and so I would just try to squeeze 10 more pages in that specific day in order to not break my score. So if you never tried habit trackers, I really suggest you give this one a try. That's it for me today, and I'll see you soon.